Hello, everybody. We're back. This is WTS 336. Believe it or not, the first episode in around 2 months. We've had a little summer holiday. Mero was on the summer project. He had the time of his life. My name's Danny Murray.
I'm Graham Merrigan. I didn't realise it was 2 months. I thought it
Yeah,
was like 4, 5, 6 weeks. I've been to
yeah,
Sweden and all. Didn't get the
you
chance to
have,
do
yeah.
that. We'll do that another time.
Yeah, absolutely. We will indeed. We're not going to bother with much of a preamble because, like, we'll catch people up on our summer adventures another time. But we've got a guest with us, Mero. And when you're looking to kick things off again, when you're looking to fire off on all cylinders, you turn to your old pals, you turn to your buddies. To rob one, you turn to the click. Al Foran, how are you?
I was going to say, you
I'm
turn to
good.
Gordon Ramsay. Gordon, thanks so much for joining us.
Such a great pleasure. Two of the very best. Wow. Amazing. Hello, lads. How are we?
All
Good.
the
How are you?
better.
All the better to hear you, you gentlemen. How are
Thanks,
you
bud.
getting on? You're very
Uh,
busy lately.
yeah, do you know what? It's the best complaint being busy, but it's been manic. Between doing a lot of this Oosh TV stuff, covering all of these big boxing events, and now I'm in Bristol for season 3 of the BBC series Borders. So I'm filming that at the moment, and it's crazy. On top of having two crazy yet beautiful children who keep me on my toes. Yeah, I'm fairly busy, lads.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. But it's great because, like, we've been. I'm going to use the kind of the wanky term of following your career. For like the best part of 10 years, Al. And it's
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful to see you doing these things. And I remember saying to Mero a couple of months ago when you were over in the US doing the election for Oosh TV,
Yeah.
and I remember saying to Mero at the time, isn't it absolutely brilliant to see Al over there doing, like, who would have thought that, like, this is where it would lead him? This is absolutely amazing.
And that was a crazy few days as well
Yeah.
over in DC. That was quite crazy. Um, that was an interesting one. We actually tried to kind of test out what we could do with Oosh TV, and we thought, okay, maybe we'll have a look at this selection. And we arrive in Washington, and it's minus. I think it's -4, minus 3, -4 at least Celsius. I've never felt cold like it, bitterness like it. But we were like scrambling because a lot of the interviews we got were with Trump supporters, and we needed this to come across as impartial as possible. So we found a lot of Trump opposers as well, and it was a crazy few days. We met some characters on that trip,
Yeah,
I can
because
tell you that much.
I remember saying to Dan, I didn't have you going down the political spectrum, particularly on kind of social media. But you, as you said, UTV, you just wanted to test the waters with it.
We
So
wanted to test the
will you
waters,
bring it
yeah.
to the Irish political spectrum?
I think we tested it once, Mero, and I think one and done. That's the way I thought about it. I've never like the pressure behind it. I don't think I'm qualified enough as well. I think I should just maybe delve into sports and football and boxing and WWE, of course, which I'm very passionate about. But yeah, it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure.
The
And did you?
experience must have been brilliant though at the same time. Sure. Well, I hope it was anyway. I hope that it
Oh,
was at least enjoyable despite the
I
pressure.
Washington is actually it's a beautiful city.
Mm.
It's obviously there's a lot of a ton of history there, and it's yeah, there's a lot of there's it's very compact.
Yeah.
I felt, listen, I suppose the few days I was there, oh, well, it's very safe. Yeah, I don't know what it's like on, you know, I don't know what it's like on a normal second weekend or whatever. But it was a pleasant city.
But you would have a hotline to the White House and surely you'd be able to ask your old mate what he thinks of the safety of the city, you know?
I think we don't talk about that. We talk about the safety of other cities because we like to call people out on that, like the London mayor. He's a disgrace. We don't focus on what happens in America. We focus outside. You know,
Did
we
you
like to point fingers.
when you were doing the piece the cameras at that inauguration, were you doing your impressions as well? How did the Americans take it?
I think they took it well. I think both sets of the Trump supporters and the protesters took it pretty well. We tried to kind of lighten it up a little bit as well. But
Mm.
I just think it was a very serious few days. And I think as well, after Trump's speech, it got a little serious as well. So we were kind of like, oh, how do we navigate through this?
Yeah.
Um, and for me, like I was constantly refreshing the news, and I was wondering where are the protesters? Where are the people who are against this? Because we want to get their views as well. We want this to be as fair as possible. We don't want this to be a Trump love-in, you know. But I think as well, one of the best things I enjoyed about that trip was after the inauguration, where we got to visit some of the historical locations. We got to go to the Lincoln Monument. We got to film stuff at the Washington Monument, obviously doing the Trump outside the White House, which I
Mm.
thought was great, and we test the waters on a couple of those things. Like we did a bit of Forrest Gump at
Yeah.
the pool, the memorial pool, because that was a famous scene, obviously, in that movie where he ran across to Jenny. I think Jenny ran across to him. So yeah, we
Yeah.
like we just tested a few things out. We also did the Jefferson Memorial too. Like we did a video with football pundits talking about the Jefferson Memorial, just random stuff like that, where it kind of just it felt relaxed the day
Yeah.
after the inauguration. We could kind of okay, we can play with a few things here.
And you touched on it there a second ago. You're a lot, I'd say, happier when you're back into the world of your sport, your football, your boxing, your
Mm.
WWE, and all that kind of stuff. Man, I am absolutely in awe of your jet setting, Ric Flair almost like jet setting lifestyle when you're over to Saudi for the big fights and you're like, Al, it's absolutely brilliant to see the success you're having with it, man. What's it been like getting to go over and get to see some of those big fights firsthand? Like,
I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. Especially the fight card in February in
mm,
Saudi. The main event was Bivol and Better Biev too, and that was just an unbelievable fight card. You had Callum Smith winning the first fight. You had some brilliant fights on that card. You had the likes of Shakur Stevenson, and you had a great kind of build up as well. You have Joseph Parker, of course, knocking out Martin Bacoli. I think that should have been Joseph Parker, um, and Daniel Dubois. But listen, we'll talk about that another day. But it was amazing that event in particular, just from the point of view of being a boxing fan. I've never seen so many high profile fights on one card. And I remember watching that Bivol and Better BF fight. And I remember just being absolutely wowed by it. Um, just the levels of
yeah,
quality, high quality boxing that I was watching between those two. I was thinking, oh my God, this is essentially two all-time greats. I think watching Dimitri Bivol fight is it's a pleasure. Like, I think you kind of compare it to, people saying, "Oh, I've watched Messi play. I've watched, some of the all time greats. I've watched Katie Taylor box. So watching him fight, it was mesmerizing, really. You know,
did you ever like? And again, I'm a little bit all over the place, right, Rusty, right? But like, I'm thinking back to one of the first times that we had you on the podcast all those years ago. And I remember you telling us that, like, kind of, you started doing the impressions, like, almost kind of messing with your brother or
yeah.
mimicking your parents,
Oh
and
yeah.
like, did you ever think that it would lead you down the path? I mean, like you were even a regular on, and now he's off the airwaves. But like you were a Funny Friday regular with Joe Duffy. So from a national perspective in Ireland, you were part of the furniture, and then getting to do these big international things and all. Like it's some journey, Al.
It's been quite a journey. It really has. Um, we're talking 10 years, and there's just so much has happened in those 10 years. Obviously, you know, I got married. I met the love of my life. I have two kids. It's been a hell of a decade, to be
You
honest
were
with
only
you.
going out with Alison when you brought her to my
Yeah,
live show.
I brought her
That's
to.
right. Yeah,
Was that the first? That was the first ever live
Live
show,
show
wasn't it?
that we did, yeah.
that we did. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the first. Yeah, so
I
Alison
think
was
you've
a
seen
part of
each other
that.
about 3 months or something.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Yeah.
No,
It
gas,
was. It wasn't long, and now look at us, married, two kids.
deadly.
Love it.
It's
Love it.
Sorry, I interrupted you there because I got very enthusiastic.
but no, like it's just been crazy, and Joe on that, yeah, like that was it was an honor to actually be a part of that show.
Yeah.
His final ever broadcast, like that, it meant a lot to me. He's been a fantastic support to me over the years. He's really championed me, and he's helped me out with anything I needed. And if Joe would just help me out at any point,
Mm.
he's a really, really good person. I think a lot of people know Joe too much um, through Liveline,
Yeah.
through the hour and 15 minutes that he's on air. Uh, but if you know him personally, he's such a sweet person, and he cares. He cares about people. He deeply cares about people. He cares about a lot of the Funny Friday regulars. He cares about his team that work with him. So that's one of the qualities of Joe, and it's great. I'm so proud to kind of call him a good friend. Because he's been really good to me over the years. And
Al, we used to meet yourself and myself used to meet every Christmas Eve for a few years.
yeah,
Doing that. Will we be meeting this Christmas Eve
I don't know.
now that Joe is over?
Listen, I love doing that every Christmas Eve, but Christmas Eve is hectic for me because I go in there and listen, I enjoy it so much, but I have to rush out. I have to leave because we go to Alison's cousin's house in Skerries, and we're there for a couple of hours. And like Alison's mom's side of the family, they're all uh, like they're all musicians. Traditional Irish music is a massive thing on her mom's side of the family, and her
Brilliant.
cousin. Oh, it's amazing! Like it's a proper trad session in the house. Like so many different kind of so many different talents. Playing many different instruments. It's class, and also as well, it helps that he has a lovely Guinness keg in there, and he's got the proper pipes as well. Shout out to Alan, Alison's cousin. Um, Not that I have a pint of Guinness because I'm driving. Of course, cannot do
Of
that.
course. Of course.
Al, did you ever do a Joe Duffy impression?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember it.
You're talking now. You're talking like that, man. Yeah. It's a great podcast. So I enjoy it very much. Yeah, yeah, very good. And how are you, Mero? You good? Yeah,
I
you're all right.
always,
Yeah.
I always used to laugh like there's impressionists who are like accurate, like you are, right? And then there's kind of people who just do the mimicking to purely take the piss. And I always used to laugh at the Après Match lads doing Joe Duffy.
Oh,
It's just classic, like.
that was Gary. That was Gary Cook, wasn't it? Gary
Yeah,
Cook did. Yeah.
yeah. Well, anyway, sorry. That's an aside. The
No.
the sporting element of all this, Al, right? So like the impressionists and the crack and all that is obviously what's kind of brought you to the dance. But like you're getting to intertwine all this then with a love for you, which is your love of sport. And
Yeah.
even listening to you doing some of the football stuff and seeing sort of some of the areas you're dipping your toe into, what's that being like for you?
Yeah, that's been amazing the last couple of months, and I'm learning on the job.
Mm.
Every event that I do, I'm learning on the job. I maybe I'm a bit too overly critical of my interviewing techniques. Um, there's a few things that I look back at and I'm like, oh, you bloody idiot, you. Do you know what I mean? But I think I'm getting better at that. I'm becoming a lot
Hmm.
more comfortable with it. Many people have said that I've improved over the last couple of months, interviewing different boxers. It's very much like it's a crazy environment. It's a
Yeah.
frantic environment, those fight weeks, because you've got to run around and you've got to get as many key figures involved in that fight week as possible. You got to get them on camera. And there's no script really for me. It's, I'm going off what's been said by, the opposing camps, and I'm kind of repeating that to say Eddie Hearn, for example, we did Ben and Eubank Jr.,
Yeah.
which I believe was our best to date. I think it's our best TV event, just with the theatrics involved that week, everything with the build up to, the speculation of whether Eubank Senior would show up or not, and he did eventually. Like, that was a crazy week, by the way, lads, because I don't know if you've seen it, but I got a bit of a not so much a hit piece, but there was an old dodgy article about me in the Daily Mail after I did an interview with Chris Eubank Jr. They said
Really?
that, yeah, they said that my impression of senior to junior, which was on the Thursday, which was press conference day, was very insensitive, given that he wasn't speaking to his father. And then lo and behold, 2 days later, senior shows up. Now I don't know the ins and outs behind all of that,
Hmm.
how that came to be on the Saturday. What did I have a hand on it? I don't think I did. I think they might have had this planned for a while, that he wouldn't be
Yeah.
involved during fight week and then he'd show up on the Saturday. Kind of the whole mind games thing with the Bens. But yeah, there was an
Junior
article written
Junior
up.
was a Junior was a challenging interview for you though. I thought he obviously he was kind of 2 days out before a fight and all, but I
Yeah,
just thought maybe he was a bit too intense for you.
I was surprised we got that much out of him, though, Mero, because
Right.
yeah, he's, as you said, he's 2 days out from the fight, and also might I add, because considering the talk at the time before we started rolling the camera, I asked him permission to do an impression of his father, and he said absolutely, of course. Said it wouldn't be an interview without you doing my
Yeah.
old man, So we asked permission and we got his permission. You
There you
know,
go.
that's the
Fuck off,
thing.
Daily Mail and
We did
show
the,
the
no
cunt.
we did we did the right thing in that. But it was an interesting week, and I think it was a proper victory, I suppose, after that article had been written on the Thursday that was put out, and then on the Saturday, obviously,
I
Eubank Senior shows up.
yeah, I think you're right about the probably the pre-arranged and the bit of mind games.
Of
Like
course.
did you watch the Steve Collins Chris Eubank documentary about the fight in Mill Street?
No, I need to watch that.
It's absolutely brilliant. But when you said about the mind games element of it, that documentary came to mind straight away because
Yeah,
when you listen to Eubank talk and you listen to the whole way he approaches things and everything,
yeah.
it's always how do we get the next chess piece moved on the board? How do we play
But
the game just a little bit better than the others? That kind of
but
thing.
but Steve-O wasn't phased. He wasn't
No,
phased at all by it.
no, no. And that's if anything, because what's the name of that fucking fraud he went to, the hypnotist fella?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
like
Oh, oh,
the
yeah.
documentary goes into all that, and like Eubanks being convinced that that Collins has been hypnotized to not feel pain and all this kind of stuff, and just like they're talking about these, and you're listening to it, and you're like, if this was
Tony
a
Quinn,
movie,
Danny.
say again.
Tony Quinn.
Thank you. And if this was a movie, you turn it off, like if it was a Hollywood script, you turn it off going, none of this is believable. But the fact that actually it played out and this really happened, you're sitting there
Yeah.
going, this is absolutely insane. You know what I
Oh, it
mean?
was.
So,
Wasn't I thought it was crazy that obviously, it was the two sons fighting and the fathers were there in the night, but also Steve Collins was on
hmm,
commentary for TalkSport as well. So it was
Yeah,
like a little like a little piece of history as well was there on that night. You know, I
And
yeah,
of
think
course, our three of our friends, Paul Howard is featured heavily in the documentary because he followed the Collins for years and wrote Steve's book and wrote
yeah,
Roddy's book, and he's so close to the Collins family that his input is always interesting to hear as well.
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's if you get it, you're a busy man, Al. But if you do get a chance to
And
watch
Night in
that
Mill Street, is that what it's called, Danny?
One Night in Mill Street, yeah,
One
Yeah,
night miss, yeah.
very,
absolutely
very good.
brilliant, brilliant
That
documentary.
Al, wanted to ask you, in regards to the Katie Taylor fights,
Yes,
that's obviously history in women's boxing and stuff. Has
incredible week.
has Katie remarked on your impression of Katie?
Only a couple of years ago, Mero.
Oh,
6 or 7 years ago.
how did I not know
A
about this?
few laughing emojis underneath the
Oh,
impression.
okay. So she hasn't said that over when you're covering the fights or anything, or her camp hasn't said that, or
No, no. I spoke to Brian Peters, our manager, and I had a great chat with him. And he was very complimentary and happy to see that I was doing well, and he was happy to see that I was doing bits with Oosh TV and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I don't believe so. Listen, I may do that impression, but I'll always say as well that she's the greatest athlete the country's ever produced, especially after New York. Um,
Mhm.
she's just done everything
I
humanly
don't know if Danny
possible
agrees
to.
with that, do you, Don?
I like don't know. I respect everything she's doing. She's undeniable. Like,
I,
but I
I think.
just
Oh, listen. I think arguments can be made 100%. That's just my opinion.
yeah, of
I
course,
just
yeah.
think,
I think Roy Keane is.
and that's valid as well. That
Mm.
is a valid argument.
It's a great
You
discussion,
know.
though. I love those discussions of Ireland's greatest ever sports person because then
Is
you
I was going to say that the problem with it, right, like it's you're comparing apples and oranges, right? Because like how can you
absolutely.
compare Katie Taylor to Roy Keane or even Katie Taylor to Steve Collins or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's
Pádraig Harrington as well.
Paul de Carrington, exactly. Yeah, you know,
And then someone said your man Morgan, the cricketer. I'm not having a discussion
Owen Morgan.
about cricket. I'm not. Cricket does not deserve to be in the conversation. End
But
of
you see,
story.
but this is it. Like you know what I mean? It's
That's Becky Lynch.
Becky Lynch. You know,
You
Becky,
got it, yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely. But
It's one of them, isn't it? Where it's just kind of it's whatever the center of the universe to you, you're going to think that the person in that universe is better than the person in someone else's. Like it's
I
just
just
you
I
know,
she's
just think,
definitely up there for what she's achieved. She's
yeah,
undeniable.
a trailblazer in her sport. She's put her sport on the map. If it wasn't for her, in many cases, we wouldn't have got women's boxing at the Olympics.
yeah.
We just now need to see that because the critics against that opinion will kind of say, there's not a good pool of women boxers yet, and that might
Mm.
come at the generation after. I'm not saying she isn't. She's definitely in. There's probably 10 Irish athletes that are in the conversation, but I only ever hear Roy Keane in the conversation for best ever footballer. Surely though, European Champions League, two Champions Leagues, loads of Premier Leagues, loads of FA Cups.
Yeah.
So but as Danny says, it's like talking about apples and oranges. Could
You
people say
also
Brian
talk about the
O'Driscoll?
impact. You could say Brian O'Driscoll, but you also talk about the cultural impact of Roy Keane and
Yeah,
how the country came to a standstill. Literally came to a standstill in 2002 during the whole Saipan debacle.
Mm,
yeah.
I mean, that's how much of an impact Roy Keane had on this country.
Are
It
we missing
spawned a
somebody that
musical. It spawned a
someone's
film.
going to be
It
listening and saying, "Yeah, I can't believe you didn't mention who have we not mentioned?"
But, but that's it, isn't it? Like, there's going to be somebody who thinks you haven't mentioned Rory McIlroy, and then you're into the debate of, well, I mean, is he which side?
Is he? Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
it's
they're
only
like,
sport. I'm only joking.
go away, you will you? You know, I'm going mad for golf. Don't be at me, Graham. Don't be coming at me. You know. And then it's
You
what
could. It's because didn't he change? He did change for the
well,
Olympics.
I was going to say
He
for the
was.
Olympics. Yeah, that's it. And but then it's also that whole thing
I
of
don't
like,
think he changed. I think he stayed. He's always been under the umbrella
yeah,
of 32
but
Counties
it's
Ireland.
He's okay. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he's I
Yeah.
think he was reluctant to kind of pin his flag or pin himself to either flag until
Yeah.
the Olympics came along, and suddenly it was like, well, all right, you know, I have to
I know,
represent.
but
So,
that's
but
a grand slam. that's a Grand Slam champion, like, as well.
You know? And it's then you're into the eras conversation, right? Because it's kind of like, all right, well then you're talking modern day, obviously Roy Keane, right? But I mean, like John Giles, Liam Brady, let's
John,
not,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
you're talking Brian O'Driscoll, all right. Willie John McBride was, in any conversation about historic rugby, his name is in there.
Yeah,
Like it's impossible to like. I love these conversations, but I
The
think
rowers as
it's
well, Danny.
the which
The rowers.
the two
yeah,
lads from Cork.
The rowers,
yeah,
the
absolutely.
O'Donoghue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. Again, if that's your universe, you're going to say those two brothers or whatever are
You could also argue Kelly Harrington, two-time Olympic gold
no,
medalist.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? That's an incredible achievement.
This is it. And this is why I love these kind of chats because you sit there and you go, yeah, geez, I wouldn't have thought of that. Now, oh, geez, I wouldn't have thought of that. And that's. But when it comes to Katie Taylor, undeniable, like absolutely, and her place in history is cemented, and her legacy is it'll she'll be talked about for decades and decades and decades. But I don't know. There's something in my head that I just can't get past at times, where I'm just kind of like it's. I think it's more the personality than the achievements, if I'm being honest, as to why I'm just kind of reluctant to be like, yeah, she'd be one of my favorites ever.
Mm.
That says more about me than it does about her, to be fair.
I just enjoyed putting you on the spot. Thanks, Dan.
No, it's good, man. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
You usually
Have
do it to
we
me, so
have we any potential goats in the making?
That's a
Irish
good.
athletes.
Well, I mean, right. Well, Alex Dunn is probably one of the ones
Yeah,
that a lot of people are going to talk about in terms of potential for motorsport. Ireland hasn't had a Formula One driver since Ralph Furman, I want to say. And he was not of the caliber of Dunn.
yeah,
Other than that, you're talking probably like Eddie Irvine,
yeah.
and Eddie was he benefited, shall we say, from Michael Schumacher's broken leg to have his moment of glory.
He did pretty well though,
He did, and
didn't he? Yeah,
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like he went to Ferrari. He will. It's always funny listening to Eddie Irvine talking about his time at Ferrari. He went from Jordan to Ferrari. Um, he says he was on a contract that never stipulated anything about him being like a number two driver to.
yeah,
And for a lot of people, Michael Schumacher was, and always will be the greatest Formula One driver ever.
100%.
That Ferrari team was built for Schumacher to win a title. Ferrari hadn't won a title in like 21 years. They brought Schumacher in, two-time world champion from Benetton, and they were like, we are building this around him to finally bring a title back to Italy. So when they brought Irvine, they weren't bringing Irvine in to win a drivers' championship, certainly to help with a constructors' championship. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But and the fact that he didn't win a race until 1999 kind of shows that. Whereas Schumacher, like in a Ferrari, that you'd have a better chance of a dog sled winning a race in 1996, winning in
yeah.
Barcelona. But yeah, this has turned into a Formula One history podcast now. I'm delighted with that, by the way. But,
I know. I'd ask you one more question just about Formula One, and just
yeah,
sorry, I know we're taking it away from potential
this
Irish
is all right.
sporting goats, but do you feel that there's an unfair bit of criticism on Schumacher with his time at Ferrari, where he won 5 world titles, and people say, "Oh, look at the car he had," but people tend to forget about his time at Benetton, where the car wasn't to the level of that Ferrari in the early 2000s.
I think there's a couple of different things there.
that's a great question, Al.
I think the 95 Benetton, there's question marks about in terms of was it actually legal? Did they have a few little tricks that, and it's always, if it doesn't get, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to it, if you don't get caught, you don't get caught, right? That's in
Yeah,
motorsport. Martin Brundle always says it. Formula One isn't about looking at the rules and saying, how do I stay within the rules? It's about looking at the rules and saying, how do I make the most of this? And I think Benetton
yeah,
done a really good job of that. The Schumacher GOAT debate for me is that Ferrari, while they had the best car for a couple of those years, they definitely didn't have the best car for all of them. And if you look at the McLaren, like the battle between Schumacher and Hakkinen, those sort of first couple of seasons,
yeah,
Hakkinen win in 98 and 99, Schumacher come back in 2000. And then even into the later years, when you look at his battle with Montoya, when Montoya was into Williams, like
yeah,
that wasn't the season where Ferrari did have seasons where they dominated, but that was one where you think, Jesus, had Montoya not had a couple of moments, Schumacher mightn't have won that championship. For me,
Montoya was erratic though.
oh, absolutely, yeah. But I think
Yeah,
that's why he wasn't afraid of anyone.
yeah, yeah.
Michael's brother Ralph was in the other Williams, which added
Yes.
another layer to the whole thing. But for me, Michael is the best. Like, and I grew up in his era watching it, and I had a brother who was obsessed with him,
Hmm.
so that probably helps. But like, even last year, I went to Germany to the Michael Schumacher Museum, which was brilliant. I loved it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But to kind of bring us back on track,
Ali brought his brother for his 40th. It's not a gorgeous present.
yeah,
That's a lovely present, Danny.
to,
That's
Gorgeous
to,
present.
yeah.
to try put us back on track, then not in the
No
traditional
pun
sense.
intended.
Hey, not in the traditional sense, the greatest Irish person, but and he's only recently passed away. But Eddie Jordan deserves a mention for
100%.
legendary Irish sports contribution because what he achieved and how he achieved it is the stuff of myth.
So
Like,
much of an innovator he was as well.
he had absolutely no right to one, even get to Formula One, but then to win races and to secure some of the things that he did. Like, even and I'll stop after this, right? Did you guys know that the reason DHL used the color yellow is because of Eddie Jordan?
Yeah, you told me in
Yes.
the
Yeah. I heard that.
I
It's a
didn't. I
brilliant
didn't know
story
until you
that.
told me. I didn't know until you told me.
Yeah, it's
Tell the
amazing.
listeners.
So basically, DHL used to use white and red, right?
Yeah.
And they wanted to get into Formula One. They saw Formula One as an opportunity. Global sport. They were a global brand. They were like, we want to cash in here and try get a bit of sponsorship to up our sentiment and whatever. So they were looking at it and be like, we can't afford Ferrari, we can't afford McLaren. This Jordan team has picked up a winner too. Let's go and talk to them. They wanted their colours on the car, but Eddie Jordan had already signed a big deal with Benson and Hedges cigarettes, so they were using yellow. So rather than miss out on a sponsorship deal when Eddie was borrowing and stealing money from people, he said to DHL, "Do you know what? White and red will never get you recognised. Think about TV cameras. Think about what you want is yellow. It's bright. It's bold. It's in your
Yeah.
face. Go yellow." DHL believed them, convinced they went yellow, and sure, even now today they're still
The
yellow.
rest is history. It's
Unbelievable.
incredible. Yeah, it's a brilliant story that is.
Yeah.
In
So,
terms of the question of up and coming goats, so to speak, obviously I'm infatuated with football. I would hope, like for years, we've saw the national side just deplete in the Delaney era and stuff like that, just being neglected, and even grassroots football to this day is still being neglected, and we're achieving more than we should at underage level. But I just don't think the trajectory has quite got there or landed with certain players. But there's a couple of players on my radar at underage level that if their trajectory keeps going, you would hope
mm,
that they have a brilliant, bright future.
Yeah.
I'm obviously going to name Michael Noonan from Shamrock Rovers. He's just turned 17, and I've never seen. So he signed for us in the winter break. He's been playing since February, March. He's about six, seven league goals, at 16, and I've never
Yeah.
seen a young lad play like a man. And I think himself and Mason Melia, and still people forget as well. Evan Ferguson's only 20 years of age and has made a move to Roma.
I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about that. We'll get to that in a
Yeah,
second now.
but I would love. It's very hard to see at the moment, but in terms of the Roy Keane hysteria of how much we relied on him, and I was watching highlights today, lads, but coincidentally of Ireland v France in 2005. Roy Keane was sensational in that match at
Yeah.
Lansdowne
34
Road.
years old.
34 years of age, he was absolutely sensational coming towards the end. So I would love to see someone like football is the most participated sport on the island. I would love to see us doing well again. I would love to see there's some good people in admin roles in the FEI that do have the sport at front and center.
Yeah.
But then there's still lads lurking around from the Delaney era. I think we need to get rid of that. And I think if football is striving at an international level, I believe the whole country is striving. So I would hope players from the underage kind of step up and become household names going into it. But Evan Ferguson, I know it's only three friendlies, but I think he scored 5 or 6 goals in 3 games. His
Yeah.
move is a loan move to Roma with a 40 million buyout clause. Now, unfortunately, if that goes ahead, Bohemians are stand to get 4.5 million, I think, from it. and say
Oh,
Great
Kevin's
news.
boys,
Great news.
say Kevin's boys will probably get about 2 million from it. But I think that's a great move from him. I think that is a great. But there's people, friend of ours, Gary Mackel, who's great with the football knowledge. He doesn't think he's going to get in at all at Roma. But why else would they get him on loan with a boiler?
they obviously
Yeah.
see some sort of potential in him. I think everyone can see the potential in Evan Ferguson. You have to remember, as you said, Mero, 20 years old. I think he's 21 in a month or two. And a lot of these, I notice as well, a lot of these top strikers in Europe are kind of finding their groove in their mid-20s. Like if you look at a striker like Osimhen, I think he's with Galatasaray now, but
Yeah.
he started to find his groove in scoring goals in his mid-20s. Let's go back in time. Let's look at Drogba. Drogba was a striker
Yeah.
bought purely on potential for Chelsea. It was only, I think, when he turned 26, 27, when he was scoring 30 plus goals a season. So you have to be patient with strikers. Now, I'm saying that I'm very impatient with Rasmus Højlund, but like, I just think with Evan Ferguson, you can see the potentials there, and you can also see that he's there's a bit more to Evan Ferguson than just a goal scorer, than just being a goal scorer. He's got a bit
Yeah.
more to his game than that, and Roma obviously see that. And yeah, I've met him before as well. He's a lovely lad. He's a really nice, down to earth lad. And please God, you know what I mean? We need someone exciting. We
Yeah.
need someone exciting in the Irish setup to kind of
I,
get us going again.
I'm really optimistic about Evan Ferguson now. I think the move to Roma is a brilliant move for him, right? Is he going to start every game? No, he's not. They've got Paulo
No.
Dybala. They've got what's that Ukrainian kid?
Oh, now you're after.
Artem.
Have they still got Tammy Abraham? Is he?
Have they still got Tammy Abraham? That's a good question. I know Lukaku has gone to Napoli.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
Is
know if
he?
they still have Tammy Abraham or not. But like, look, Dybala's their head honcho up front, right? But even Ferguson learning from somebody the caliber of Paulo Dybala
Yeah,
is going to
absolutely.
benefit him unbelievable. He's going to get game time there. He's definitely going to start a handful of games, but he's going to
Yeah.
get to play in cup matches. He's going to get to play in European matches. There's
Yeah.
a huge
It's a long
amount.
season, like.
Exactly. There's a huge amount to be said, even from just getting out of that Brighton situation that maybe saying it's soured is the wrong way to put it, but it certainly seemed to be knocking his confidence. This will
Yeah.
reinvigorate him. And like Italian football fans, if they take you under their wing, they
Look
make
at
you
They'll
McTominay.
obsess you.
exactly.
Did
And
you see the crowd waiting for him at the airport, sure?
yeah, there
Mental.
is they will until you give them a reason not to, they'll
Yeah.
lift you onto their shoulders and carry you kind of thing. And he's got off to the best possible start he could. I know they're only preseason friendlies, but he's given them something to say. Oh,
Yeah.
hang on, brilliant. I'm very optimistic, and I hope it's a success for him. Is he going to be 30 goals a season? No, of course not. But
No.
Not double digits would be great,
I
wouldn't
was
it?
going to say, but is he going to pop it up with a few here and there? He
It
absolutely is.
takes time to get to that point.
Yeah, of course.
Unless it's like, people, there's too much pressure on young strikers now to be the new Erling
Yeah.
Haaland. Like, Haaland's a freak of nature. A
Yeah.
freak of nature. He's just, I've never seen anything like him, and what was it? He moved to City when he was, 22, 23, and 50 plus goals in all competitions in his first
Right,
season.
right.
No young striker does that.
Lads,
And
you two are Manchester United fans, right? When Evan
Yeah.
Ferguson first came out in the scene, geez, when he's 16, 17, whenever it was, and he scored, I think, 5 or 6 goals for Brighton in his first couple of months. I think, now, tell me to shut up, but I think if Alex Ferguson was the Manchester United manager, he would have swooped that Evan Ferguson up. I think he is the Alex Ferguson striker.
I don't think that's a ridiculous point whatsoever. I think Ferguson would have swooped in for him. Absolutely. He is. He's definitely the kind of striker that Ferguson would have looked at back in the day and said, "Oh, I like this. I like this kid." You know. I think the problem with the market today is that he was priced at £100 million after he scored those six
Yeah,
goals,
exactly.
which would
That's
have been
why. That's
awful,
why
Mero.
it would have
Jesus,
been
the
awful for
balls.
Bowes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm delighted the buyout's only 40.
Yeah,
Well, that gives us a nice segue into the United conversation now.
yeah.
Like, right, look, last year, we know, right? We know. But I don't know. I am I'm on the Amarin bandwagon, right? I was Mero will back me
So
up
am
on
I.
this. I was not on Ten Hag from day one. I didn't buy into him at all. Whereas Amarin, I'm like, he's taking the poison early. He's taking the poison. I hope when the illness fucks off after, and then he can get stronger and get better. And I think
Danny was very upset with the Ten Hag appointment at the time.
I was, yeah. I
Are you?
yeah, I just the second they start, and I know it's not just Ten Hag that you know is the person signing the players, right? I know there's a whole system and a whole
Committee.
yeah. It's not just like the days where Ferguson say this is the player I want, whatever. But it screamed to me of a man out of his depth because all he wanted was the player. And I get it, like managers will do that; they'll bring a player with them that they know and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
he was effectively trying to take every player he had worked with in Ajax. And it just said to me, he's not ready for this. He's not ready for the Premier League or Man United because he's
Yeah.
going for these players that are not proven in these situations, but also that he's saying they'll play the way I want them to play. They're my lads. And I was like, it's not going to, with the egos and everything else that are already at United, the
He
bad.
tried to lean on comfort and familiarity too
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Whereas to me, now I know Amarin came in and he didn't really have a transfer window. He didn't really have in those first few months. But to me, he was like, I'm weeding out the ones that I think are poisonous. I don't care how talented they are. If I don't think they're what I want, I'm not playing them. End of story.
Yeah.
And there's some people who think that's not the way to do it, whatever, especially when you're talking about the lowest league position in whatever amount of years it was and all that. But I think,
It's the 70s.
yeah, but I think really and truthfully, it feels like we're maybe 2, 3 players away from thinking, right, we're not going to win the league, but certainly we can now push on. I think the players that he signed over the summer are very talented. They've done it in the Premier League, albeit at, clubs traditionally that wouldn't be after last season. It feels weird saying clubs that aren't as good as Man United, but you know what I mean. And I think for me now, it's need a goalkeeper. Like I know there's talk of Donnarumma and all that, and I just
Is that real talk?
No.
no, I don't think it is. I think it's
I
He's hardly going to leave PSG for Manchester United.
he's only got a year left in his contract, and he had said before about kind of different challenge, different this. That was before they won the Champions League.
Yeah.
Now it's
To-
kind of like
to go back on the Amorim appointment,
yeah,
the best thing that could have that happened to United as a club was that there wasn't a new manager bounce when Amorim was appointed.
yeah,
Because I think at that point there was kind of I think everyone identified what the issues were, who the bad eggs were, and as you can see, those players, those poisonous players, are being filtered out one by one. It's a slow enough process, I have to say. I think if there had been a new manager bounce, we probably we'd be in tears in 6 months to a year. I
yeah,
think he's seen what the issues were straight away when he got there, and I think his approach was very honest. And some of those players who have fragile mentalities didn't take too kindly to that,
Hmm.
and the proof was in the pudding in the 6 or 7 months in which Amarin was there for the remainder of the season. I think he's bringing in players that are honest, hard-working, and believe in his philosophy. He's also keeping players that are patient in trying to integrate into his system, the
Yeah.
3-5-2, 3-4-3 kind of system that he's trying to implement. I think he's a great appointment. I think he's young. He's hungry. And I think the fact that he identified the issues early on, he said, no, no,
Yeah.
prepare to ride this bumpy wave, not a wave, a tsunami. That's what it was. Um, all the way up
Did they
until
have to
the
get rid
Europa
of?
League final.
Did they have to get rid, which was the worst European final in history?
It was
But did
awful.
they
Yeah, it
have
was.
to?
Sorry.
Did they have to sell Kobe and Garnacho or Garnacho?
They have to say, I think Garnacho will be on the
Yeah.
way out. I think Garnacho is a
And how
brat.
do you feel about that?
He's a brat.
But for me, if you would ask me the question about Garnacho 12, 18 months ago, I'd have been hyping him and I'd have been
Yeah,
saying, yeah,
same.
he is going to be the answer to some of our biggest problems. But looking at him over the last season, I don't think he kicked on enough, to be honest. I don't think he showed uh, enough to say he's going to develop into that world class level.
And
That,
he got a new contract. He got a new
uh,
contract, and that was it from then
yeah,
on. The attitude changed, and
yeah,
obviously there was a couple of players as well that he was influenced by, that made him change his ways. And I think as well, like, the bicycle kick against Everton, arguably the greatest Premier League goal I've ever seen. Stuff like that just got to his head too much,
yeah,
and the attitude just dissipated.
yeah.
It faded.
If you weren't asking me which one would I get rid of and which one would I keep out of Menu and out of Garnet, I'd keep Menu. I'd
Oh,
All day, yeah.
like all day,
yeah.
every day.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
he's
Where do you thinking this season in terms of will they finish in the Champions League spots?
I think fifth, sixth, Mero.
I
Where do you
I
get that from? Where are you getting that
Um,
from? Finished 18th last season or 17th, was it? 16th?
15th. I think they've got rid of they're getting rid of some of players that caused them huge problems. And players that were ineffective as well going
yeah,
forward when they were effective players a few years ago, in getting you goals, assists, but
Lindelof's
they
gone,
just
isn't
dropped off. Lindelof is
Lindelof's
gone.
gone. Yeah,
he? Yeah.
I think bringing in Premier League proven players like Mbumo and Cunha, and now it's looking like Sesko, who's not Premier League proven. I think that's a bit of a gamble, if you ask me.
I think for the money they're looking for him, it is a gamble.
Yeah,
You
but I
know,
think what's important now is that they need to ship off a few more players
yeah,
as well. They need to get funds, and I think they need to bring in a midfielder. I think you're
they
saying
do.
a goalkeeper and a midfielder are equally as important. I think, Danny. I
It's
think a midfielder. I tweeted it the other day. A midfielder who can resist the press, who's a good ball carrier, technically good. We do not have that in our squad, a deep lying
yeah,
midfielder. Now, I've always argued the point that when Bruno Fernandes plays a little deeper, I actually think he plays better. He
mm,
he's he's a
You
lot
want them at
more,
the
he's
final third for a
mature.
while.
No,
You don't.
Mero, I know he'll get us goals, and I know he'll get assists playing in that position, but it leaves so many huge gaps in that midfield when Bruno is playing as the number 10. It
Yeah,
really does.
the only signing that has impressed me from United, and he has great potential, is Lenny Yoro. The rest, I think, have
Oh,
been
yeah.
pretty
So
poor.
I think Euro. I think Aiden Heaven. I
yeah.
think Dorgu will be a great player.
You think?
I think he will. I think I'm putting him in the same camp as I put Patrice Everett, right? Where he came in mid-season and had just that rocky introduction, that sort of thing, where like a lot of January signings have when they come into the Premier League, where they're like, "Whoa." But I think he handled himself well enough and showed enough for me that I'm like,
Yeah.
he's got something about him, and I
He's great
genuinely do.
work ethic about him as well. That's
Yeah,
that's one thing that, like, if I see a player who works their bollocks off, and that's
yeah,
what Dorgu does. I think people forget that Dorgu's only 20.
yeah,
He's a,
Yeah,
he's
I would have
actually he's a
thought.
he,
kid. Yeah,
you know,
people think he's 25, 26. He's not. He's a very, very young player, and he can only develop. I do think he needs to work on his crossing a little bit. I think,
yeah, yeah.
um, but that can be worked on in the training ground.
I,
But I think there's a lot of potential there with him.
Yeah, I think you're
There's
right though, Al. I think when you said about them needing a midfielder, it goes back to that classic thing of like the spine of a team. right? Like
Yeah.
the spine, and you're looking at it and you're saying, like the goalkeeper isn't. Like he's just like it.
Oh, he's
I,
He's what?
he'll cost you 15 to 18 points a season.
easily, easily, and I just
Yeah.
think that's you can't continue with that kind of carry on. Like, and
Yeah.
when people say like, oh, you know, De Gea had his best days, blah 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 blah. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, when you think we let him go
Yeah.
for this lad, like I just can't get over that. I think midfielder absolutely. We need just that sort of old school gritty. Just will get their hands dirty and will literally
But te
take one for the
but
team. You
but
know?
technically good too.
Yeah, yeah.
A player that's good with the ball at their feet
Is
that can
Mason Mount not
carry.
the answer?
No, I think
No,
Mason Mount's really good, Mero. But I think what Mason Mount does, what he does best as a midfielder is his off the ball work. He's fantastic. He's brilliant at pressing. He works his socks off. But on the ball, I just don't think he has the ability to kind of carry it. And it's very rare to find a midfielder like that.
mm,
And the last midfielder that United have, who they haven't replaced, by the way, who could do that, was Michael Carrick.
yeah,
They have not replaced Michael Carrick, a player that did the quiet stuff, but did it so effectively.
They've
That,
signed his
that
son now, haven't they, to the academy?
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
you're right. That was one of the things. Like Carrick, when they signed Carrick from Tottenham, I was a bit kind of like, really, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
let's see.
remember as well, yeah.
But he was like Carrick was one of those players that he never looked like he got out of fourth gear, but he never had to get out
He
of
never
fourth
had
gear.
to.
no,
He just everything was calm, everything was
mm,
collected. He like that always the simple but the right pass.
mm,
Very, very rarely made a mistake. And anytime the ball was at his feet, you go, I can catch your breath now. You know,
yeah,
we don't have a player like that now. Every player in that midfield at the moment who gets the ball is either going to hit a wayward pass, they're going to get caught in possession by a high press, they're too
yeah.
slow to make up the ground. Your chest
And they're far
tightens
too
on,
hesitant.
you know?
Like Bruno is far too hesitant
Yeah,
when he plays in the final third, and I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. When he plays in the pocket, yeah, of course he'll get you goals, he'll get you assists against um, teams, smaller teams. But I
yeah,
think when he plays as the number 8, he actually has the luxury of time to make the right decisions. There's discipline there. The midfield actually looks a lot better when Bruno Fernandes isn't playing in that final third. I know it's crazy for me to say that, but I've seen him play in that position for Portugal, and it
mm,
works. And I remember, and I always go back to this game. It was I think it was a Ranić game, and we played Aston Villa away when Gerrard was the manager. It was a 2-2 draw in Villa Park. But I remember Bruno played in a deeper role. I think, strangely enough, he wasn't playing as the number 10, but behind him in the pivot was Matic and Fred. But Bruno was also playing in a deep position as well in midfield. And he wasn't losing the ball. He had time to make the correct passes. He scored 2 goals as well,
yeah,
playing in the number 8 position. So this is the thing. Like, I think if you play Bruno Fernandes, especially he's getting on now as well. He's 31 in September. Play him a little deeper. See what we can do. Because I think sometimes when he plays as the number 10, he's far too excited. He's far too hesitant. He tries to hero pass far too much.
yes, yeah. Force is the issue, I find. Yeah, I agree with you.
Far too much. And I think a player like him, with all of his ability, just try and play him a little
We,
deeper this season and see what happens.
we saw a tiny glimpse of it in Europe with Mainu playing in that further advanced role. Is that something that you think could work where, like that, drop Bruno back a little bit, have someone
Yeah.
alongside him, but then have Mainu further up the pitch potentially in that? I don't know if I'd say he's a 10, but like certainly in a more advanced role. Like,
Well, I think we all, at first, initially, we all thought Manu was going to be a number 6.
yeah,
And then I don't think that kind of came to full fruition. I think we kind of realized, oh, he's actually a lot better uh, playing as an 8 or a 10,
yeah,
and in a bit more of an advanced midfield position. Um, For me, it's a bit of a conundrum with Manu at the minute. Where do we play him? I think there'll be a lot of rotation between him and Mason Mount this season. Um, if please
If
God,
Mount can stay fit,
If Mount can stay fit,
Jesus, yeah.
I'm also looking at
Lads,
yes, bud.
no, sorry, go ahead. Finish your sentence there, Al.
Sorry, Mero. Sorry for going on there, but I think the young lad Kone as well.
Yeah.
Sekou Kone. I think
I'd agree with Dan about Heaven. Heaven looks good, but is he back from injury?
he's
Yes.
back. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. I wanted to change tact here because it was turned into a Manchester United love in.
So,
We were
It is,
talking
and
about F1 there,
yeah.
and we've seen with football the documentaries on Netflix and
yeah,
Prime. Like today, I finished Built in Birmingham, the Tom Brady thing taking
Right.
over Birmingham City. Tom Brady is an insufferable flea. It's 5 episodes. It's interesting, but he is a moron. I watched Drive to Drive, didn't finish it, but our own love, our deep love for professional wrestling, WWE Unreal started
Mero,
with only 5 episodes on Netflix. Danny, what did you think of it?
before I get into Arrow, we haven't done this in 2 months, and you've just pulled a segue out of your arse there that I'm very proud of. Well done, my friend.
Thank you. Well,
Abs-
it usually you that does the segues, so I'm delighted you're proud of me there. 10 years,
Beautifully done. You pulled
10,
us out of a Man
10
United
years.
tailspin, and you whipped us into the subject that we knew you were going to close the show with, and
oh, we
that's
have
fair
to
enough.
Yes,
close it.
I had to send us home.
Yeah,
Danny,
right. Unreal.
before you give the answer, right?
Yeah,
Me and Al have been exchanging voice notes for the last. We always do anyway. For the last,
right.
Yeah.
it's the last week or so, and no, fuck it. You tell your view, and then Al can give his view, and I'll give my view
Right.
as we're talking.
I love behind the curtain. Right? I love behind the scenes. I want to know how the sausage is made. Do you remember that show, Magic's Greatest Secrets, finally revealed back in, I think it was the 90s on Sky One?
They had a pro wrestling version as well. Chavo
They
Guerrero
did.
was the one under the mask.
Right. I love that show because I want to know how the magic is done. I am that person who wants to know
Yeah.
every detail of it. I went to see Penn and Teller in Vegas and I loved it because it's still magic in front of your eyes, but they're telling you how you do it. But just because they're telling you how to do it doesn't mean you understand it, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I found with this. So some of it was contrived, right? The Unreal stuff. I do feel like they peeled back the curtain, but they didn't really show
They
you,
didn't. No.
And I think for me, what I loved about it was just even that stuff where like lit directly behind the curtain in Gorilla, getting to see that kind of stuff, right? And getting to see that play. The stuff in the writer's room, do I think that's really how? No. But I loved getting to see those moments in Gorilla and getting to see almost that vulnerability in these people who are going out and performing in front of tens of thousands of people on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
But you see that human element of them where the breathing gets short, the tension is building in them, and they
Yeah.
need somebody to give the arm around them. And say, like that scene with Triple H and CM Punk, where you can see CM Punk ahead of WrestleMania, is the anxiety is creeping in, and Triple H has to go over to him and say, "You've always been a fucking main eventer. Like
Yeah.
those sort of thing." I love that element of it. Loved it.
In the Rhea Ripley match as well in the first episode.
Yes, yeah, did I think it was a tiny bit contrived? Yeah. Do I think there was an element of trying to sort of position Triple H as something within, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I did think there was an element of that. Would I watch another season of it? Absolutely. I was raging. It was only 5 episodes, lads.
Mero, I'll go. Yeah, I when I initially watched the trailer, I was excited.
What was your reaction when you heard about it first off?
It's like, oh, interesting. Very interesting because I love a good wrestling documentary. I love shoot interviews as well. I love the A&E, the WWE Legends, the biography
Yeah.
series as well. Some of those legend episodes were fantastic. Because there was so much you learn about all of these iconic figures that we grew up watching. But then I kind of watched it and I thought to myself, as you said, it is a bit contrived. It is a little There's a huge element of that. But I think of my favorite wrestler of all time, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin, my hero, and he is someone who is very passionate about protecting the business. And I thought to myself, no, there's an element of the business that should be protected. I think this is too much. I think there's too much being shown here. Um, but
You don't think we're being worked with it,
we already know. I think we are being slightly worked with it, Mero. I think
Yeah.
we are.
It's a work within
Um,
a work, as they say.
exactly.
it is a work within a work. But I think I don't know. Uh, I watched it and I thought, yeah, it's interesting, but I still think even in today's, I know it's, we're in this modern day and age, we're well aware of what happens behind the scenes in professional wrestling, but I still think there needs to be a small element of protecting that business.
And do you think that it didn't protect? Do you think that doing this isn't protecting the business?
No, not really. Sorry, yeah, I think it's not protecting the business. It's kind of yeah.
Because in actual fact, we only like. Firstly, I enjoyed watching it. Much like Danny, I love the behind the curtain stuff. I still think that it's called Position is the biggest tribute in professional wrestling history. It's the best
Yeah, it's
tribute.
amazing. It's the best
Yeah.
tribute. Yeah,
They probably should have a portrait of Gorilla Monsoon actually in Gorilla. But anyway,
they
instead of
should have
having
him like our grandparents would have Padre Pio in their kitchens.
absolutely,
They should have
absolutely,
a gorilla picture in
it
there.
should be remembered for the youths that are being picked from colleges that haven't a clue who Gorilla Monsoon is. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I love all that. I love the behind the scenes documentary. I'm not sure I'll go as far as to say what you're saying, Al, that it doesn't protect the business. I think we're being worked. I think the writers' room element. I think all those writers and Triple H probably took the piss in as far as
Possibly, yeah.
Ed Koskey had an idea, and you can nearly see. Well, as he was saying, I was laughing, and I was sent Danny a voice, and I'm pretty sure I sent you a voice, and I was all about it. And I was like, after the dust had settled, I was thinking, I bet you the writers there just said, listen, I'll throw out a wild idea just for content for Unreal.
Yeah.
And Ed Koskey's idea was for Chelsea Green to come out 28 and 29, the last two wrestlers in the Women's Royal Rumble, eliminate themselves, leaving only one wrestler to be the winner, and that's number 30, and that's Chelsea Green. Now, I popped for that because I love Chelsea Green. But at the same time, you're not going to do that at a pay-per-view because you want a big payoff.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, did they
well,
just set? Is that was it almost that scene in Unreal? Was that actually just scripted for that scene? I
Yeah.
did as well as that. I think if you could take the documentary as they picked certain wrestlers to interview. You went to Rhea Ripley's house. You got her real name. CM Punk. There's that element of it that still protects the business. Or are you saying, Al, are you of a Gorilla Monsoon mindset that nobody should know Rhea Ripley's real name? Or nobody should
No,
know?
no, I think just a glimpse into what you're seeing behind the scenes, even though it was very interesting, like watching Chris Park
yeah.
produce the Rollins and Punk main event for the
What about his
Netflix premiere.
vulnerability to Bruce Pritchard? I thought that was uncomfortable.
I thought it was. Yeah, he's such a sweetheart. He seems like one of the nicest guys ever. Chris Park, aka Abyss in
Yeah.
TNA, who's a well-renowned producer now as well, by the way. He's
Watching
one
the
of
producers produce the matches was brilliant content.
it was brilliant.
I never knew.
Is that the bit though, Al, we were saying about protecting the business?
Yeah.
That's the bit where they're
Yeah.
showing you what's in the sausage just a little bit too much, like.
There's just a little bit too much there.
Yeah.
And I think as well, there's a lot of stuff with Triple H where everything is awesome.
Yeah.
He's sitting beside Steph, and it's awesome, wasn't it? Awesome. Everything is awesome, wasn't it? It's like
Yeah.
just be honest. I'd love to see honesty. I'd love to see him kind of say, I wasn't too much of a fan of that. Everything is amazing,
that was the
brilliant.
Shit. Yeah.
That was a bit shit, but he's like that in the meme, isn't it? Triple H is that meme. How you're looking at yourself in the mirror. How do I make this about myself? That's him. Like when he
Yeah.
took over everything, he was like, "No, I'm not. You're not going to see any of me. You're not going to see. I'll be taking a backstage role." He
Yeah.
fucking opens up every pay-per-view, every
I
PLE.
I think though that, and this is maybe this is me reading too much into things though. I think there's an element here of when TKO took over, right? They look at it from the point of view of like, look at Dana with the UFC and Dana White and UFC are
Yeah.
synonymous, right? You think UFC, you think Dana, you think Dana, you think UFC. I
Mm.
think TKO probably looked at that and went, WWE doesn't have that now because Vince is gone. So how do we need somebody that when they're talking or they're doing anything in the media, people automatically say, that's the WWE guy.
Yeah.
That's the wrestling guy. Because when Dana does Dana's head appears anywhere, that's the UFC guy.
Yeah.
So I think
Too big for him.
there's an element of trying to position him or trying to create that to to take Punk's theme music to create a cult of personality that maybe
Yeah.
WWE doesn't have in that place anymore. Because let's be like, with Vince gone, it's a whole new world, right? And like I kind of
It
laugh
is.
when you reference that Chelsea Green winning the Rumble by 28 and 29, eliminating each other, a double elimination accidentally. Who's number 30? Who's going to win the Rumble? That's the exact kind of shit. Vince McMahon booked himself to win the Rumble. That's the exact kind of weird shit that probably would have happened, under
Yeah.
the Vince McMahon era. That because he would have been like, "That's good shit, pal." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Such good shit.
But
Mm.
now, no. And I don't know. I think for me, look, as I said, I'd watch another season of it. I was raised with only 5 episodes because I love that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I do also kind of appreciate that like it's still an entertainment show. You're still the audience that
But
they're
this is the
looking
thing though,
towards
Dan, right?
and
Strive to drive. Strive to drive's
drive to
effective
survive,
formula
Mero.
one. What's it called?
Drive to survive.
Sorry, Drive to Survive. That had a rejuvenation in the sport of Formula One. A lot of the football shows had a rejuvenation. This is not going to get new professional wrestling fans. That no one's going to watch that as someone that has never watched WrestleMania or has never
Yeah.
watched the Royal Rumble
It's
and saying, "I'm going to start watching that now." I don't think so.
it's not the same though, right?
Okay.
Like Drive to Survive.
I think they're trying to get that because they referenced that show on the lead up to announcing when the press release
Yeah,
was
because Netflix have done these things where they,
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
but like Drive to Survive was a push from Liberty Media, who own Formula One, to crack America, right? Because all the audience segmentation, all the work that they had looked at, everything that they had done, they'd put Grand Prix on in America and they'd been doing it for years and they just weren't selling out. They weren't, people were still going
No.
to NASCAR, still going to IndyCar, but F1 just wasn't. And it was because the personality seemed too elite, the drivers weren't relatable, and these Grand Prix are long and nothing happens. So
Mm.
they came up with Drive to Survive under the premise of how do we condense a 21 race Formula One season where every race takes about 2 hours and you've got a qualifying, you've got practice set, you've got all these things. And again, it's the
Yeah.
behind the curtain stuff that's going to reel people in because they want the personalities, they want to know like who's my favorite driver. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you asked people, name 3 Formula One drivers. Genuinely, they probably would have struggled. They'd name Lewis Hamilton, they might have named Max Verstappen, but they,
Alonso. Yeah.
whereas now, like F1 is genuinely, and I think that the thing with Drive to Survive was used to crack America, right? It was to crack the American market through the Netflix medium. WWE doesn't need to do that.
No.
This is more about how do we give
Even with Drive to Survive, the team principals like Gunter.
Gunter, yeah,
Gunter
exactly.
Steiner.
You
Like
know?
he's a cult figure. He's doing those like sportsman dinners now.
Yeah,
As well. He's doing a huge tour.
massive tour. Yeah, exactly. Like all this kind of stuff. So I think there's, like, I get what you're saying and all that, and
Punk
to kind of how to attract people in and how to bring more people to the product, so to speak. But I don't think it's the same thing. I think the thing with this Unreal is that there is a large cohort of people who'll watch it and will think,
Getting really bad feedback from people that you would have thought that would have liked it, just saying it's a crock of shit. They don't believe that it's real and blah blah blah.
yeah,
I just enjoyed
Some of
watching
the old heads, I definitely like. Has Bret Hart given his opinion on it? Because everybody wants to hear what Bret Hart's opinion is on so many of these things. Because
I
I'm
won't
sure
hear a
Bret
bad
Hart.
word said about the best there is, the best there was, the best there
I
ever will
love
be.
Bret
love
Hart.
Bret.
Although I
Love
did,
Bret.
did you hear? Did you? Because I looked at I saw a quote today. Bret Hart talking about Gunther,
Yeah, totally.
massively criticizing him for the chops.
But it's not surprising that Brett has always said for years and years and
He's
years
such a safe worker. Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
worker, he's never injured anyone. And then when you
Mm.
see Punk's chest bleeding on Sunday night, I mean, he was obviously asked the question, and that was his answer. Like,
Yeah.
anyone I've ever faced or anyone I was in the ring with, I never hurt them. So
Yeah.
and he's saying that he told Gunter as well. So you'd imagine Gunter said, "All right, thanks very much." It's like Kevin Nash gave
Yeah.
Rodriguez,
Raquel, yeah.
Raquel Rodriguez,
Yes. Yeah.
saying that she needs to be a bigger worker, and she's like, yeah, well, Kevin Nash says that he was a bigger worker. I'm going to take that on the chin.
Yeah.
I can see a lot of Gunter's chops are Gunter, so I can see him saying, right, because Bret Hart told me that, I'm going to stop doing them.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
Bret
think
is
Gunther is
the
so
absolute best
authentic.
ever.
Yeah, Brett's one of the best workers you'll ever see.
Hogan wasn't even buried, and Bret was still criticizing Hogan.
Yeah.
He was asked, in fairness, he was asked.
Yeah. Yeah, there's bad blood there.
I don't think Brett would be the only one that would be lining up to maybe say not so nice things about Hulk Hogan, lads. To be fair.
And anyway, Al, we're running out of time with you. You have to shoot off.
Yes, lads.
Yeah.
No, just on Unreal, just at the end.
Yeah.
I just think
Go for
there's
it.
an element of the business that does need to be protected with that. I get that we're in a new era, we're in the TKO era, we're away from the Vince McMahon era, and this is Vince, like, we all know what kind of person Vince McMahon is.
What, rapist?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, that's what
As subtle as one of Gunther's chops, Mero.
There's elements of when Vince McMahon was running WWE that I think was done correctly. I think he protected the business well. I think there was an element of mystique that he provided to the outside world that he wouldn't let in, essentially, with regards to how the shows would work. I remember him I think he stopped doing interviews after he grabbed that guy by the scruff of the neck. What was his name?
Pete Rosenberg, was it?
It might have been Pete Rosenberg. Someone
No, it
else.
wasn't Pete Rosenberg. I know who you're on about.
Yeah.
Hilarious. So do you not think Vince would have given the green light for WWE Unreal?
Oh, I'd say there's steam coming out of his ears watching it. I'd say he's fuming saying it. Yeah, 100%.
The only thing I'd say though, Al, is that we got WWE 24, and that content.
True, and I agree with that. And we got that bit at WrestleMania,
with Brock
34, where Brock threw the belt at him.
Why did Brock do that, by the way?
It's weird. Well, it was a shit main event.
Yeah.
Who was
My first WrestleMania, by the way, Brock and Roman. Such an underwhelming shit main event.
So that's why he did it, because it was crap.
I think so. I think he hated how it was booked, how basic it was, pretty much.
That's hilarious. Drama queens.
Yeah. But I think as well, sorry, I know we're still on the topic and I know I have to shoot off, but we talked about like the next big stars in WWE as well. I think there's a lot of pressure on the company to come up with 2 or 3 top stars. I think the women's division, I think they're fine. I think they're fine in the women's. I think they've got Rhea Ripley, they've got Io Sky, they've got Tiffany Stratton. There's so many young women there who can go on for the next.
The women's matches have been much better than the men's matches lately. You talk about the
Absolutely.
women's Elimination Chamber, the women's Royal Rumble, women's main event at Mania. They've all been better. Like,
do you think? And it has to be a main event, night 2 main event, by the way, at WrestleMania. Do you think at any point down the line we will get a 4 horsewomen fatal 4-way match for a women's title at WrestleMania?
Can't see Mercedes coming back.
I was going to say, I think Sasha Banks is
it depends on her coming back, of course. But I think that is one of the biggest matches in professional wrestling that needs to happen. If that doesn't happen, it'll be a crime.
Becky's up there now. I think out of those 4. I think she, her ability, her draw, Becky is on her own.
And
The
actually,
way she
and sorry
roasted,
to
the way she
It's
roasted
it's
Nikki Bella the other
unbelievable.
day,
it was,
the other night on
brilliant.
Raw.
And
Unbelievable
sorry,
on
and
SummerSlam when it
to,
was the two opponents, two of them from Dublin, Ireland. Like
uh,
what?
literally, I was about to say, by the way,
Sorry, you forgot to mention Lyra Valkyria as well. Huge
exactly.
talent.
To
And
talk about kind of rising Irish stars and people who have huge potential, there's one right there that sort of brings us into that sports entertainment and everything else. But yeah,
She used to direct me to my seat to OTT, lads.
there you go.
no way.
And
There you go.
yeah, and now she's in main event and Raw and SummerSlam and Backlash and everything.
But she's so good on the mic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got really good.
She got really good, and that was rapid. That development was rapid.
Her ability in the ring is just amazing.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's what she was good at first, Mero, and now she's developed her mic skills. And
I agree. Danny, Al, what a good conversation for us to come back. Danny, where can anyone listen to us if they want to listen to us?
Indeed, Al. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thank you for easing us back into this. If you want to check out our previous episodes, including I think we've done 4, maybe 5 with Al over the years as well. You can check it out, WTSpod.com, or just search WTS Pod wherever you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, anywhere and everywhere. We'll be there. Al will occasionally be there too. Just go back and listen to them, lads, and enjoy.
Al, will Tony Soprano sign us out and say, until next time, good luck?
And that's what it is. You know, I love these two. They're good. They're good boys. That's what they are. Also, 2016, you had me on the podcast. And I remember, we were all excited about the fucking draft. Remember, it was the draft. Fucking Shane McMahon as the GM. And Daniel Bryan, Mick Foley, whatever it was. Hey, look what the fucking is. The What's Your Story podcast. Mero and Danny.
Love it.
Sign it out.
Deadly.
Oh!
Al, continued success to you, Al. Love to see
I
Love
love
to
these
see
lads. These are legends.
Continued success, Alga. You're a gentleman.
Mero, until next week, my friend.
Yes, we're back next week. Clear eyes, full heart.
Full hearts, can't lose.
Too sweet.